Welcome back. American farmers feeling the pressure as the U.S. cattle herd numbers plummet to new lows. Inventory dropping to the lowest level in more than 70 years. The steady decline has been happening since the 80s, and it's squeezing ranchers out of profits while raising costs at the grocery store. Joining me now is RCAF USA CEO Bill Bullard. Bill, thanks for being here. Assess the situation for us. What can you tell us about these declining inventory numbers?
Well, the reason they're declining is for two reasons. Number one is globalization and free trade, and the other is market concentration. You know, the U.S. cattle industry is the largest segment of American agriculture. Over a generation ago, we had about 1.4 million cattle producers and sheep producers. But those industries have been subjected to a decades-long experiment called free trade or globalism. And as a result of that, we have all but destroyed the domestic supply chain for both sheep and cattle. Under the free trade, what's happened is we threw open our borders to cheaper imports from countries that overproduce. They use the U.S. market as a dumping ground for their excess production. As a result, we've displaced domestic producers. We've reduced the size of our cur herds. We've eliminated the opportunities to rebuild and expand our herds. And we weakened our domestic supply chains. And this is hollowing out rural communities all across America. It's weakening our economic standing for our rural communities. And it's threatening our national security because we're losing the ability to remain self-sufficient in the production of these two very important protein staples, beef and lamb.
And of course,
so the reason.
Yep. President Trump is aware of all of this, and this is the reason that he has been pushing for fairer trade deals to benefit the American farmer. And I want to get your take on what the president has done. We spoke with Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins here on this program just last week. Here's the secretary. Watch.
We went from a trade surplus of America's agriculture products in the last Trump administration to a $50 billion trade deficit, Maria. And when you think about that, our farmers are struggling. The cost of inputs are way up. And if you don't have food security in your country, you are done as a country. If we've got to buy all of our food from China or Russia or other countries, then America is no longer the America, and we don't have the American dream anymore. That's how important this is, really getting out there into the world aggressively while President Trump is striking these deals to ensure that we're opening up markets, we're increasing access for all of our farmers, and it's a new era of prosperity.
So, Bill, you just laid it out for us straight from the farm. What has the impact been of President Trump's tariffs on cattle ranchers, on American farmers, and what do you want to see from upcoming deals that the president is negotiating right now?
Well, so far, President Trump has not focused on our cattle or sheep industries. Our industries continue to decline. And unfortunately, the heavyweight lobbyists, the global corporations, continue to lobby the president to focus on exports. And this has been the problem. Our exports are a niche market for our industry. They represent only about 11 to 12% of our domestic production. And what is happening is, as we try to expand export markets, instead what happens is we open the floodgates for more imports into this country. So we have asked our U.S. Trade Ambassador to recommend limits on imports along with tariffs, and we need country of origin labeling on beef. We've also asked our Secretary of the Department of Commerce to do the same thing, to impose limits on imports, to impose tariffs, and to put country of origin labeling on beef so our markets can be transparent, can be competitive again, and only then can consumers be expected to pay a fair and reasonable price for an abundant and affordable food supply, as Secretary Rollins says, is absolutely essential to maintain our domestic national security. But we can't do that if we keep eliminating farmers and ranchers, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we're hopeful President Trump will turn his attention on our industry and begin again to provide our opportunity, the ability to expand, to grow, and to begin becoming self-reliant.
Bill, I don't know. I don't understand what you're saying. I mean, the president has focused on farmers. He's talking about farmers all the time. That's the reason that Brooke Rollins just went to the UK, and that's the reason that she's been talking about Australia and so many other countries, that she wants to ensure that they buy our beef. And the president has said repeatedly that that's the whole point. I mean, I think sometimes the globalists, confuse fair trade with free trade. I mean, a lot of people want free trade, fine, but what the president is trying to do is do fair trade, which we haven't had. So what you want to do is you want to ensure that the cattle and the beef products stay in America. Is that what you're saying? Because he's trying to open up markets for you and your colleagues in the farming industry so that other countries are buying more beef.
Look, we do not produce enough beef or lamb in America to feed our domestic consumers. We underproduce for the domestic market. Our problem is not exports; those are niche markets, a small percentage of what we rely on to make our industry profitable. And it's the multinational global beef packers that benefit from those exports. It's not farmers and ranchers that are exporting beef or lamb. And so the focus needs to be on imports. Those imports are ravaging our industry, and we're hopeful President Trump will begin to take steps with Australia, one of our largest importers.
Right. Let me get your take, Mark.
Yeah, Bill, if you're unable to produce enough beef for Americans, I got to get your position on fake meat. And I'm not talking about Impossible Burgers. I'm talking about lab-grown meat that comes from the cells of cattle. What is your position on that?
Well, we oppose that. We believe that consumers need the choice to purchase the actual beef, natural beef product produced from live animals that are subsequently slaughtered. The fake meat represents another competitor in our industry. Right now, it's deceptive if consumers cannot distinguish that in the market. But so, too, is the fact that we import from 20 different countries and the consumers can't distinguish that product because Congress repealed country of origin labeling on beef. So consumers don't know if they're buying beef produced under the highest standards of the world by U.S. farmers and ranchers, or if they're buying beef from Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or Mexico. So our industry is not competitive. That's why beef prices have been high, and that's why 6 years ago we filed a national class action lawsuit against the big four packers, alleging that they have artificially depressed cattle prices while simultaneously inflating beef prices.
All right, we will be watching the situation. We appreciate you laying it all out, Bill. Thank you. Bill Bullard joining us this morning. We'll be right back.